Paul Harrell program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
I want to welcome to the program for the first time from the Institute for Justice. We have Dr. Dick Carpenter on the line, and he serves as the Director of Strategic Research. Dr. Carpenter, welcome to the program, sir.
Paul, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
I'm really thrilled that you could do this, and I know you are also going to be in Arkansas on the campus of UCA, the College of Business Auditorium, this coming Thursday, November 16th at 1:40, and you're going to be giving a talk on occupational licensing in Arkansas. So I would assume that this is one of your, many studies over at the Institute for Justice. And please go ahead and tell us a little bit about what the Institute for Justice does.
Sure. So the Institute for Justice, or IJ, is a nonprofit public interest law firm that represents individuals whose most basic rights are violated by government. So we are a law firm that specializes in suing the government when the government impinges upon people's rights. We litigate in 4 areas. One is economic liberty, which occupational licensing is part of that, but also free speech, property rights, and educational choice. And one of the very first cases for us was on the issue of economic liberty, where we represented taxi drivers in Denver who wanted to break open what by then was a monopoly, to break that open so they could operate their own taxi businesses in Denver. And we won. We have been continuing to win on behalf of small business owners for the past 26 years.
Wow. And that's some great work. And, you can see, that taxi cab analogy is great because, with the invention, the new businesses like Uber or Lyft and things like that, we have seen that nationwide. They have these aversions to not going through the proper channels. You also see it with, the hotel industry and the different services out there where people can rent their own places. And so it's really interesting to me when technology kind of outthinks government. People get in there, they start being entrepreneurial, they start, making money, creating jobs, and then everyone's like, whoa, 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 you didn't grease the right palms. And honestly, Dr. Carpenter, that's exactly the way I feel about most occupational licensing, is it's kind of, you're paying a fee. It feels kind of mob-like to me sometimes. And feel free to comment on that, and then talk a little bit about how Arkansas compares to other states with these licensed occupations.
Sure. So most people, I think, are familiar with the idea that their doctor or their attorney has a license. And I think most people generally know that their barber or their cosmetologist has a license. But I don't think many people realize just how many occupations today require a license that once upon a time did not, like auctioneers, sign language interpreters, locksmiths, furniture upholsterers, florists, crane operators, and the list goes on of these occupations that now require a license. An occupational license is a government permission slip to work. It means before you can go and hang your shingle out and work in the occupation of your choice, you have to get permission from the government to do so. And these licenses are created not because consumers go to the legislature and ask to be protected from unlicensed practitioners. These licenses are overwhelmingly created by members of the industry who go to the legislature and ask for the license to be created in their industry. it enables them to erect a fence around their occupation and keep competitors out. And so the costs associated with licensing, costs in the form of higher prices to consumers, fewer job opportunities, restricted interstate mobility and migration, all these costs are borne by us to benefit a much smaller group of people who enjoy an economic benefit as a result.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, just kind of doing that in my head here, I'm thinking, well, if you're making it harder on people to practice and therefore, they can't work legally, then there's less people with a skill set that's, legally you're able to purchase or use their services. That would seem that would drive the price of those services up.
Yeah.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program. Happy Thursday to everybody listening. A week from now, we will all be, hopefully, at this point, stuffed full of turkey. I mean, that's what I'm looking forward to on Thanksgiving. I don't know about you guys. I'm also looking forward to the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, where I'll be doing the program here, and we get to go over George Washington, President George Washington's first, it's a Thanksgiving proclamation, if you will. Not necessarily Thanksgiving Day as we know it, because then later on in that episode or that broadcast on Wednesday, we'll talk about Abraham Lincoln's Thanksgiving Day proclamation. When you go back and you read somebody like George Washington or a president like Abraham Lincoln, what supports or what used to support the vast majority or the entirety, I guess, of this country was faith in God, faith in a higher power. And so very much looking forward to that Wednesday broadcast next week. I do kind of have some very bad news, and starting the program on a somber note. State Senator Greg Standridge passed away this morning. He is from Russellville. He passed away after a long battle with cancer. You may remember back during the session, he was on the Judiciary Committee, and I believe it's sometimes, they made special arrangements to where he could vote via phone while he was getting chemo at the hospital. Our thoughts, my thoughts, and my prayers are with Senator Greg Standridge's family during this most difficult time. I think I only interviewed Senator Standridge a few times that I can remember, but I will tell you this, I did see him at the Capitol earlier this year when I was covering the session, and everybody, of course, knew his circumstance. Everybody knew that he was battling cancer, and prognosis, wasn't necessarily good. And I remember I was at my little alcove cubicle where we do the broadcasts, and Senator Standridge came by, and we didn't have a long conversation at all. It was just very brief. Hi, how are you doing? And maybe a little bit more was said. Honestly, I can't remember, but this is the one thing that I can remember. He had the most just uplifting attitude that was almost contagious because I remember this. I remember being like, wow, you could just tell he was so thankful to be there and had such a positive attitude and was grateful for every moment he had. Given the diagnosis that he had, he was grateful for every moment he had. And it was just, like I said, even in a brief interaction, I felt I noticed his outlook on life, and certainly I'm sure other people noticed it as well. But anyway, the state of Arkansas is going to miss Senator Greg Standridge, and again, I would encourage you guys to be praying for his family and the Russellville community. The phone number, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to call us or text us today, is 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. So, was it yesterday? When did we interview? Or Tuesday? I can't remember. Let's see. Let me look at the schedule here. When we interviewed, was it Mr. Carpenter? I believe. Let's see, 5 o'clock. Yeah, okay. So on Tuesday, we interviewed Dick Carpenter from the Institute for Justice. Matter of fact, I think we're playing that Paul from the Past snippet during the breaks, during the online breaks, this broadcast. Well, the reviews are in. Our good friend Josh Waters made his way down to Conway and the University of Central Arkansas to hear Dr. Dick Carpenter being brought in on account of the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics to talk about the burdens of occupational licensing here in Arkansas. Now, we had a lengthy discussion about that on the program. He's very knowledgeable about this, but Josh Waters tweets, great speaker from the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics, Dr. Dick Carpenter, on the burdens of occupational licensing. And it says that, I guess, is that State Representative Jeff Williams also discussing legislative impact and experience. You can hear Dr. Carpenter on the Paul Harrell program earlier this week, and he actually links to our video. Anyway, this is, I can't tell you how appreciative I am as somebody who follows good policy that's designed to limit government's power over the individual and instead allow people to work more, allow people to follow their dreams, have less obstacles in their pathway to success. I'm so thankful to the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics for not only putting out really well-sourced and researched policy papers, whether it's the pitfalls of what somebody like Governor Asa Hutchinson sees as an economic necessity. He calls it economic development, but it's really just taking taxpayer dollars and giving it to big corporations in the form of corporate welfare at the expense of existing Arkansas businesses. They write papers like that. They have these papers on occupational licensing, and it's just really, really good that they're promoting an environment down there and bringing in speakers to give even more credibility to the things that we need to do. These studies, what they do is they expose how much hasn't been accomplished. They expose how bad Arkansas really is compared to our neighbors. And you know what? They can say what they want, but that contradicts the narrative of Little Rock, contradicts the narrative of the Republican Party. Don't get me wrong. I certainly wish that electing Republicans would have automatically triggered a domino effect and given the people the limited government policies they wanted. And I wish that was true. I wish that was a reality, but guess what? It's not. But you have people like Governor Asa Hutchinson and the leadership of the Republican Party that are pretending that that is the reality. They are pretending that the only thing the people had to do was switch from Democrats and vote for Republicans, and the process of putting a Republican in a position of power somehow makes us more conservative. without passing any laws or doing anything that actually the people want, but just then they're masquerading. Well, I'm a Republican. I can talk like a Republican sometimes. I can say these conservative buzzwords or carefully crafted language so you don't really know where I stand. So a liberal listens to Asa and thinks, he seems reasonable. And a Republican listens to Asa and says, oh, wow, he talked about tax cuts. So I guess we're on the same page. And yet, what's really happening? I mean, you can't really gauge it. It's the carefully crafted language. As a matter of fact, studies that show how bad Arkansas ranks compared to our neighbors, whether we're the highest tax state, whether it's occupational licensing, whatever metric you want to look at, not only does that, I guess, refute or expose them as really having done nothing that the people have been voting for. You know what else exposes them? A simple reading of the Republican Party platform. I know we've said it on this program. I know Senator Linda Collins Smith has said it on the program before. Platform Republicans. Platform Republicans. Interestingly enough, there's a new story out over at Conduit for Action, and it's an interesting theory that's being proposed here. The headline is shocking to me. When I first read this, I thought, gosh, is this serious? I mean, is this true? Limited government, quote, limited government, end quote, and other principles removed from Arkansas's Republican platform. That's the headline. A commentary by CFA here. Listen to this. Attention, Arkansas Republicans. Has your focus changed? Over the last few years, Conduit for Action has cited the Republican principle of limited government in criticizing huge government growth. We stand corrected, they write. Somewhere along the line, big government Republicans appear to have gotten the platform changed to omit any reference to limited government and to make other changes. The change in principles from the 2014 to the 2016 Arkansas Republican platform is much broader than omitting mention of limited government. The 10 principles of the Arkansas Republican Party are gone. Limited government and the power of faith in God have been omitted. The other 8 principles are gone as well, but their words are used in sentences in the preamble. In some instances, the words have little or no meaning and provide no guidance. The 10 principles were replaced in the 2016 platform with 5 principles that have little in common with the previous list. With carefully crafted language, big government Republicans may now deflect some criticism from conservatives. If you are a conservative Republican, you should look at the changes and ask, how does the change in focus affect my party? Let's talk about the deleted principles. Limited government. Prior to August 2016, one of the 10 principles read, quote, individual freedom and liberty secured by a limited government, end quote. The words secured by a limited government have been omitted. As a voter, what do you think of when you hear limited government? By the way, that's a question that I ask in our Young Conservative segment quite often. What do you think of? How do you describe limited government? Back to the piece. Most likely you think government should be as small as possible because as government grows, it regulates more of the economy and restricts your freedoms. Such an understanding doesn't fit with the current leadership in Arkansas government. One more time, let's say that again. Such an understanding, that understanding of limited government, that the more it grows, it regulates, and the more freedoms you lose, does, and this is a hard thing for them to swallow, because they go to bed every night thinking that they are conservative. Such an understanding does not fit with the current leadership in Arkansas government. The current version of the platform still uses the phrase individual freedom and liberty, but it's just words used in a sentence. Why completely delete the principle of limited government from the Republican Party platform here in Arkansas? Why do it? Conduit for Action writes that the change certainly fits the attitude of the big government leadership in Arkansas. For example, just 4 months before limited government was removed from the platform, the legislature approved Governor Asa Hutchinson's continuation of Obamacare Medicaid expansion, which primarily serves able-bodied working-age adults who do not work. The huge Obamacare program doesn't fit with the idea of holding down the size of government. Any notion of holding down the size of government is absent from the 2016 platform. We're going to take a break. We're going to finish this up when we come back. I'm actually going to compare. We've got the images here at the bottom of this piece. You can find it over at conduitforaction.org. Also, yesterday, Joe played the Conduit for Action quiz, our game show, and he scored 100%, but go check that out. It talks about all the tax exemptions that we have. You can take that survey the way Joe did yesterday at conduitforaction.org. We got to take a break. Back in just a moment.
The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas. Bob Maloney here from ASA News The Parrot. Breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock. Over now to our new on-site reporter, Susan Shenanigans. Susan?
Thanks, Bob. The governor has just announced that a blue ribbon task force is to be formed.
Today, I'm asking your support for a blue ribbon legislative task force to be created and directed to recommend further reform.
Now we go live to the chamber to listen in for more information on the task force.
I hereby call this session into order. First on the agenda for today is the formation of the Blue Ribbon Task Force. Is there anyone who would like to give their thoughts on the task force?
Yes, as someone who's deeply conservative, why is the governor choosing the color blue for this task force? Sounds like he's really a Democrat loyalist. Why not a red ribbon to prove he's a true conservative?
Well, I represent Walmart, and we agree with the color of the task force ribbon. The color blue is best consistent with the Walmart brand.
I object to this choice. Blue is the wrong color ribbon for this task force.
Well, who are you?
I am Mr. P.C. Wrights, and I represent Target, and we want the ribbon to be red, not blue.
Hold it right there. This seems like a tough decision. Why not ask the governor to call a special session at a later date for an important decision as this?
I think this is something worth talking about. I motion that we decide the color of the ribbon today.
I second it. Fine. We can decide it now. Does anyone have any other suggestions for the color of the ribbon?
I think the color should be white.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on. Definitely not white.
I agree with Mr. P.C. Wrights. Maybe we should choose green for the farmers.
You like the color green because you are a farmer. I think it should be purple, so we can display how Arkansas is an extremely moderate state.
Why are we even discussing this? Shouldn't we be talking about tax reform instead of wasting time with this?
Well, the people have spoken. They believe this is worth talking about, so we are deciding this now.
Excuse me, sir, but shouldn't the color of the ribbon be rainbow to include all types of people?
Please, silence your phones.
I just received a call from Walmart HQ, and they agree with, what was your name again? My name is Fabulous. They agree with Fabulous that the color should be rainbow.
Target concurs with the decision of it being rainbow-colored ribbon.
Is there a motion to make the ribbon rainbow-colored?
I motion to make the color rainbow.
I second the motion. The motion carries because I said so.
The committee will now vote and not be on record to keep the people in the dark. Back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you for listening to ASA News, The Parrot. Next up, there are reports of a gorilla on top of the Capitol Dome demanding massive sums of taxpayer cash. His name? Medicaid expansion.
PHP Parody. The Paul Harrell Program.
Yes, there are some Arkansas politicians who are so worried and actually so much in opposition to limited government policies that they try to paint themselves as extreme moderates. Now, in reality, they're leftists. Some of them know it. Some of them don't know it. In reality, they're moving Arkansas in according to what the progressives want. They're just not moving as fast as the Democrats or the, progressives would want them to. But there's some Republicans in this state that really and truly on every issue, they would call them, I think they would agree that they're extreme moderates. You know what I'm saying? Like, they will never, ever actually try to push for what the people are voting for or what's in the platform. Going back to this Conduit for Action article, it's pretty fascinating when you start talking about how they removed limited government, the phrase limited government, from the platform, according to this article. And I say it's a theory. I said it was a theory earlier because the theory is that this will enable the big government Republicans to not be so vulnerable if somebody brings up the platform. They've kind of rewritten it to where, if you actually take a look at it, and I'm surprised I haven't found this before, but Conduit for Action, you're doing a great job. If you actually look at it, it actually takes some of these principles and makes this carefully crafted language where you could attempt to justify some of their behavior that is actually growing government. But one of the Hutchinson administration's successful efforts to grow government this year was Act 317. This included a huge new system of monitoring and regulating tires from sale to final disposal. It's a cradle-to-grave tracking system, much like the cradle-to-grave welfare system the left wants, and some big government Republicans here in Arkansas enable and move the ball further downfield for the progressives, for the leftists that want a cradle-to-grave everything. But a cradle-to-grave tire tracking system is one thing that ACE supported and did in fact pass. Those who handle used tires now must comply with more regulations and permits, and the new program is forcing out of business some who have been processing used tires for reuse in other products. It also included taxes on new tires. They increased the current tax, and then they created a new tax on tires. Double whammy. But I will say, I've been harping on the tire tax increase a lot, and I really haven't given enough attention to the cradle-to-grave tire tracking system that was created. And if you go read the bill, the reason that we needed it was because of the Zika virus, they said. It's in the bill. A health concern because tires can hold standing water, and standing water, mosquitoes. I mean, how long have we been dealing with mosquitoes in Arkansas? Come on, mind your business, Marble Palace.
So you've welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Yes, you're creating a scarcity, right? So if we think about it in economic terms, when something is scarce, the price typically goes up, and so we're creating a false scarcity in the types of services or service providers that are within a market. And so by creating this false scarcity, it's basically inevitable that prices would go up on those services that are provided. And so we as consumers, we pay higher costs as a result.
So with Arkansas, because I know that's what your study is on, or one of them, can you compare us to other states? Because I'm curious about that. I mean, how do other states, when they go to license this occupation or that occupation, stack up against us?
Yes. So our study, which I'll talk about Thursday afternoon, is called License to Work. This is the second edition. We examined the licensing requirements of 102 low to moderate income occupations across all 50 states and the District of Columbia. And because we gathered all these requirements and did so consistently across all the states, that enabled us to rate and rank all of the states and all of the occupations based on how severe the burdens are to earn these licenses. So with Arkansas, what we found in the second edition was that, and we looked at three different things, I should say. One of them is we looked at the number of those 102 occupations that are licensed. So Arkansas actually licenses 72 of those 102. And that puts them pretty close to the top. The states with the most were 77. So Arkansas comes in pretty close to the top at 72.
Gosh.
And then we also measured how burdensome the licenses were. How difficult is it to earn these licenses? And when we compared Arkansas to other states, Arkansas came in 6th place as most burdensome. And then when you combine those two things, the number of occupations licensed and the burdensomeness of these licenses, you combine those two things into a single score, Arkansas came in 3rd as most widely and onerously licensed. And that's not so good.
No, it is not. No, it is not. I mean, the protectionist crowd here, I mean, they certainly have erected, like you said, the fences around their professions. And it's just obstacles, barriers to success. So that's the way I see it. And that is really, it really just shows you how much work we have to do. And, I would point out in our...
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right. Here we go, 870-275-9799. Some of your Facebook comments. Bill on Facebook writes that he's in the tree stand listening to Paul, enjoying a God-given right. Bill, my friend, I appreciate you listening, especially doing one of my favorite activities, which is deer hunting. Let me just say, I did not grow up hunting. I mean, I went duck hunting a few times. But I just didn't grow up deer hunting. I didn't start hunting deer till about 5 or 6 years ago, I think. And it's the coolest thing in the world. I mean, I'm sorry. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's like one of the most natural things that you can do. And just being in the woods, whether you see something, whether you kill something, it doesn't matter to me. Don't get me wrong. I mean, actually hunting a deer is fun. But there's just something about it that is, it's just amazing. That's all I can say about it. But what's interesting is I have no idea of knowing if I appreciate it more because, I didn't start hunting until I was into my, well into my 20s. Or, what's the difference between that and growing up doing it all your life? Do you ever get bored of it? Is that? I mean, I'm sure it's somebody somewhere has gotten bored of it. I think sometimes people get bored. It's kind of why you go from hunting whitetails to eventually you hear some of these guys, they've got to go on the big elk hunt or something like that. And you hear great stories about that. But, you kind of start going after larger game and that sort of thing. Personally, me, I haven't really had that urge yet. Of course, I've only been doing this for a little while. But anyway, while you're on the tree stand, Bill, just think about it. You're saying it's a God-given right. You're going to hunt a deer. You're going to do one of the most natural things that you can do in this world. And after you kill the deer, you're going to have to check in with Mother Government. So just keep that one in mind. Phone number 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Speaking of God, back to this article here because it talks about the power of faith in God. We're over at Conduit for Action. The headline is we're comparing Arkansas Republican Party platforms and how that it has been changed. The change in the principles from 2014 to the 2016 Arkansas Republican platform is essentially they've omitted any mention of limited government, which is very disturbing. And I'm really glad Conduit for Action has caught this. But also, listen to this, the power of faith in God. The principle of the power of faith in God was omitted in the 2016 platform. The 2016 platform still has several references to God, including that God is the source of our rights. I'm glad they didn't take away that concept. And asking for God's blessing. So, was there a reason why the power of faith was omitted? Was it an oversight? Was it intentional? Who knows? But they did remove that. See, what they did is they went from a list of 10 principles down to a list of 5 principles. And then a lot of the stuff that they omitted, they just give lip service to in the preamble, but it's not an actual goal. The principles are really your goals. The next part of this article, principles that became mere phrases in sentences. That's exactly what I was just talking about. We won't go through all the former Republican principles, but here are a few examples of how the platform has changed by deleting principles and just using some of the words in sentences. Lower taxes. Here's some key differences. The 2014 Arkansas Republican Party platform had as a principle, quote, lower taxes to produce economic growth, end quote. That's all it said, right? While the words lower taxes are still used in the 2016 platform, the way they are used in a sentence is basically meaningless. The words are only used in the following sentence, quote, without the rights to private property, individual rights are diminished. As such, we recognize the importance of lower taxes, not only to spur economic growth, but to ensure that individuals reap more of the benefits of their hard work, end quote. Okay? So no longer is lower taxes a principle of the Arkansas Republican Party. Instead, it's just merely recognized as something important without ever making lower taxes as a goal. I mean, think about that. They went from lower taxes to produce economic growth as a principle, like a banner. Lower taxes, economic growth. Lower taxes, economic growth. And now it is, we recognize the importance of lower taxes, not only to spur economic growth, but to ensure that individuals reap more of the benefits of their hard work. You know, it sounds great, but if you compare the two, you do kind of wonder, is there something going on here? Lower taxes no longer is a principle. Instead, it's recognized as something important without ever making lower taxes a goal. The way is clear to raise taxes without the Republican Party objecting based on their platform. Now, that's the question. That's the question you got to decide. These changes from 2014 to 2016 to the platform, is it making it clear to raise taxes without the Republican Party objecting based on the platform? Something to think about. And if you don't think, folks, look, there's no question the big government Republicans know and have gone back and read the platform and realized, oh, gosh, yeah, we have not done this at all. We've done the opposite of this. We're way off base. To any reasonable person reading the platform versus what we've done, implemented, or advocated for and not gotten done, there's no question we are way out of line with that platform. Do I think it's possible that they made calculated decisions to try to mitigate some of that obvious hypocrisy? Yeah. 100%. I believe it's possible. We're going to compare the two texts here in just a minute. In 2017, Conduit for Action goes on, Governor Hutchinson worked tirelessly to raise taxes. New and used tires. His administration proposed and passed an increase in the special tax on new tires and imposed a new special tax on used tires. Multiple new taxes. The governor refused to support an income tax break for military retirement unless the legislation included new taxes. According to the nonpartisan legislative agency, the Bureau of Legislative Research, the new taxes will raise $5.9 million more in taxes each year than the cost of the tax breaks in the legislation. Military retirees were used as pawns to raise your taxes. Number 3, the Internet tax. The governor supported a new sales tax on Internet purchases from out-of-state vendors and continues to support the tax despite the Arkansas House of Representatives defeating it. Then you've got number 4, gas and diesel fuel tax. The governor supported a new tax on gasoline and diesel fuel, and although the plan did not pass, he still supports the tax. So, if tax cuts spur economic growth and the governor is on record as being for tax hikes, then he's not really for economic growth? Now, we don't want people making that conclusion. Let's remove that from, being a, name in lights banner principle, and let's bury it in a paragraph somewhere. The Tax Reform and Relief Legislative Tax Farce was created when some legislators wanted to propose tax cuts not supported by the governor. That is an accurate statement. That is exactly what happened. You had people wanting to propose real tax plans, and they capitulated and they went along with what the governor wanted, which was to do nothing. The reason he wanted to do nothing is because Asa understood how fragile Arkansas State budget is. He knew that. Sorry, I was just getting a little coffee there. And so these guys backed off, and we're in the middle of the tax farce negotiations now. And what are they talking about? They're talking about figuring out ways to raise revenue, not cut taxes. The task farce idea placated legislators and put their tax cuts ideas off for at least 2 years. In addition, the focus of the tax farce is not on lowering taxes. Instead, it's looking at shifting tax burdens among taxpayers, called fairness. All the members of the tax farce voted for one or more tax increases in the 2017 legislative session. Would progressive big government Republicans have pushed so many taxes if lower taxes had remained a party principle? Most likely they would have. But now they are able to deflect some conservative criticism by the platform change. I mean, if you don't think it's in their playbook, I promise you it's in their playbook. Individual responsibility and initiative used to be a principle of the party. Think about that. They got rid of individual responsibility and initiative as a principle of the party. Conduit for Action pointed to this principle and other Republican principles as being contrary to Obamacare Medicaid expansion, which again gives health insurance to primarily able-bodied working-age adults who don't work. Governor Hutchinson continued the Obamacare program under the name Arkansas Works. Just a few months after Arkansas Works was passed, individual responsibility and initiative was removed as a principle in the platform. You got to laugh because I kind of want to, break a window or something. Just channel it in a different way. You got to laugh, right? Right after he passes Arkansas Works, or actually he renames Obamacare Arkansas Works because he thinks that that'll placate you the way it placated the legislators. Isn't that funny when you think about it? Governor, I want to run a real tax reform bill. Oh no, we're going to do a tax force. It's going to be really popular, and the legislator buys it. No, that placates me. Okay, I'll put my ideas on. Hey, everybody figured out that the private option's Obamacare in Arkansas. Oh, okay. Well, we'll change it to Arkansas Works. Oh, thanks, Governor. That works. That placates me. That's what I'll go tell everybody. Does it placate the people, though? Are we buying it? How come we, the people, are so much smarter than everybody down there? How come the people back home, and that's the truth at this point, we're smarter than those politicians? I got news for you. We are. I mean, they're trying to trick us. They're trying to fool us into buying their carefully crafted language to hide their big government nonsense and their nanny state plans, and they're enabling the policies, cementing the policies of big leftists in this country. And I'm telling you right now, we're smarter than that. We figured them out before. We will figure them out again. And they know it. They absolutely know it. Most of those Republicans who are in power down there in Little Rock right now witnessed as Arkansas went from a blue state to a red state. You know how? Simply telling the voters the Democrat voting record. And people said they voted for what? I thought they were a conservative Democrat. Nope, they voted for abortion. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to vote for the Republican then. Boom, the Republican gets in. And now we have voting records of these Republicans. We have primaries coming up where they're challengers. And guess what? Guess what? We've got these guys on record voting for tax increase after tax increase. You don't think you're vulnerable? It's happened before. It can happen again. You mean they voted to raise my taxes? Yeah, I don't think I can support that guy anymore. Then I'm going to vote for the other Republican challenger. That's what we're facing here, folks, here in Arkansas. And every one of these guys knows it. And if you don't think that they looked at that platform and said, you know what, we need to tweak this here and make it a little bit more, carefully crafted language. Let's take those 10 principles down to 5. Let's get rid of limited government. Let's get rid of personal responsibility and initiative. Just a few months after Arkansas Works was passed, individual responsibility and initiative was removed as a principle from the platform. Think about that for a second. You know what it now says? It says this, quote, "We are created equally with individual freedoms and liberties that, through our own exercise of individual liberty and initiative, can result in great outcomes independent of government." Now, that's a true statement, because no, it can result in great outcomes independent of government, because nobody is guaranteed success no matter how hard you work. right? But does that say anything in there? I mean, it leaves the door open, but the government has certain responsibilities. Even if you're able-bodied and able to work and choose not to work, we have the responsibility to pick up the slack. You know what I'm saying? It's like you could add to that statement, and that's the way it's now written. Private property. The Arkansas Republican Party platform used to say one of its principles is private property. Just that's what it said. The words private property are still mentioned, but not as a principle. Private property is only mentioned in the passage which says, quote, without the rights to private property, individual rights are diminished. As such, we recognize the importance of lower taxes, not only to spur economic growth, but to ensure that individuals reap more of the benefits of their hard work. In summary, we'd already read that statement earlier. In summary, what had been the 10 principles of the Arkansas Republican Party were either omitted completely or relegated to merely being words in discussion sentences in the preamble of the 2016 platform. So you had 2014 and 2016. One thing is clear. Establishment Republicans in Arkansas like the changes in the platform as they continue to try to drive out of office their more conservative colleagues. Now the establishment Republicans are telling members of the county committees that Republicans shouldn't criticize other Republicans. Now you can look at the scrolling down here for our online audience. I want you to see this for a second. These are the 2014 principles. This is what it used to say. The principles of the Republican Party in 2014 were 10. The power of faith in God, the sanctity of life, individual responsibility and initiative, individual freedom and liberty secured by a limited government. Now keep in mind, they removed limited government. They just took limited government out of it. Private property, lower taxes to produce economic growth, strong national defense, the personal right to own and bear arms, the equal and just enforcement of the law, and separate and equal branches of government. And then, of course, you have the 2016 preamble that makes everything a lot more murky, kind of puts some of those things in there, omits limited government, but scrolling down takes those 10 principles eventually and puts them into 5 principles. Right? It's certainly a difference. And I'll encourage you to go to conduitforaction.org if you want to look over this yourself. They've got links to the actual things if you want to actually go to the links as well. The phone number is 870-275-9799. And before we go to break, I want to encourage you, if you think this program is of value, if you think what I'm doing is of value, what Conduit Media is doing is of value, I would encourage you to think about partnering with us for extra Paul Harrell program content at Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, you get access to our bonus Wednesday weekly video, and you will get access to all of the other Wednesday weekly videos that we've done so far. We've only been doing this a little over 2 months, but for as little as $5 a month, you get access to that bonus video. It's a way for us to give you something, and you give us something. For more than 2 months, not even 2 months. For $10 a month, you can become a Paul Harrell program producer. You can help us and influence us, decide who you want to listen to, who you want us to interview, what topics you want us to discuss. And then for $25 a month, you get all the stuff below, plus a Liberty Machine T-shirt, and become a Conduit Media Insider, and get access to invitation only special events where I'll do live broadcasts, and we'll have strategy sessions about how we can make Arkansas a more conservative place. Consider it. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. I have pinned the link in our Facebook Live video. Feel free to click, consider it, and who knows? I mean, Christmas is coming up. Maybe to make a great Christmas gift for somebody you want to buy for. All right, folks, we got to take a break. Back in just a moment.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Do you need conservative legislation killed?
Or do you need policies enacted that ensure government growth?
Then you need to get
Nephewed. Hi, I'm nephew number 1 of uncle, nephew, and nephew, attorneys at law. I'm not a lawyer, but I am a senator.
And I'm nephew number 2, and I am a lawyer and also a senator.
Are you the victim of a recent accident in which the voters in your community mistakenly elected a limited government conservative who is now actually implementing the ideas he or she campaigned on?
That's right, nephew number 1. Don't be a victim of democratic elections any longer. At Uncle, Nephew, and Nephew, we are committed to killing limited government legislation and promoting bills that increase the size of government by using any tool at our disposal.
Because sometimes the truth of the matter is, principles get in the way of pragmatism.
Just listen to some of our great testimonials.
Ever since I've been using the nephews, all my special interests have been served. As long as you make sure your contract says lobbying services are prohibited, then the legal services of Uncle, Nephew, and Nephew are legal. Trust me, put the nephews on them.
It came out of nowhere. I was blindsided last election cycle when my well-funded and paid-for politician lost to some grassroots limited government voters. But then I hired the nephews, and they killed all the conservative policies the voters wanted. I got nephewed.
I got nephewed too, and so can you. Uncle, Nephew, and Nephew will accept compensation via campaign contributions. Put the nephews on them.
PHP Parody. If you would like information about advertising or supporting the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media Group, call 870-275-9755. Join the fight against big government and advance the preservation of liberty by calling 870-275-9755. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
All right, coming up next hour, I want to revisit no-bid contracts. You guys heard about that. We talked about it on Monday. No-bid contracts, because the politicians allowed private companies to write their ideas into laws, thereby making them the only person that supposedly can deliver. I'm going to tell you more about that. Also, so we heard from Bill on Facebook who wrote he was listening while he was in a deer stand. Mitch on Facebook is also writing that he's also in a deer stand and that you've been hunting all your life. Duck hunting is a sport, but deer hunting, you write, is therapy. Let me ask you, Mitch and Bill, if you're still listening, would you support electing game and fish commissioners? Would that be a good reform for the people of Arkansas, where we have the Arkansas Game and Fish that has an immense amount of power, written into the Constitution, arguably the most powerful agency in the state of Arkansas. And they really are. They are one of the most, if not the most powerful agency in the state of Arkansas. Shouldn't they answer to the people by the vote? Think about it. Let me know what you think. Sound off on the feed or give me a text message, 870-275-9799. Let's see here. What else do we have? Hang on one second. I was looking. Oh, yeah, here we go. So taxi cabs. This was a fantastic. It was out of Bloomberg News, Daniel Flatley, that taxi cabs are now using Uber tactics to compete. Okay, so Uber's the cell phone app that you can, where you can sign up to be a driver. There's also a competitor, Lyft. You can sign up to be a driver. I think we've talked about this I know Northwest Arkansas Regional Airport was trying to put sensors on their airport to keep Lyft drivers or to keep Uber drivers out. I don't know if it was with RFID tags or with some kind of geo. Oh, no, it was a geofence. Yeah. They were putting up a geofence that they were going to figure out a way to fine Uber drivers from, anyway, it was crazy. But in some cities, they've already admitted defeat. You're not going to, the taxi cab companies have just said, nah, all right. And now they're getting on board with certain ideas that Uber pioneered, and that is adaptation, my friends. That is the free market, which is actually going to make your service even better over the long run. We got to go. One more hour coming your way next.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Current political environment, I study it pretty close. We've had a lot of people voting for different parties than we had in the past, Republican instead of Democrat, and yet we don't have the reforms that I think many of us were voting for. We still kind of have the status quo on these things. Tell us, we're talking with Dr. Dick Carpenter, okay? He's from the Institute for Justice, and again, he's going to be at UCA this Thursday. So you certainly want to make plans to be there if you're anywhere in the listening area of Conway or the surrounding cities. I would encourage you to do this because it's a report. It's called License to Work, the first national study to measure how burdensome occupational license laws are. He's going to be talking about Arkansas. That's this Thursday, November 16th, 1:40 at the UCA College of Business Auditorium. So if you can, what is the most burdensome occupational license in your study, and which is the most burdensome in the state of Arkansas?
Sure. So across all of those that we studied, the single most burdensome license was interior designer. In 3 states in the District of Columbia, if you want to work as an interior designer, you have to have 6 years of education experience. You have to pass a national examination, and you have to pay almost $1,500 in fees to the state to work as an interior designer. In Arkansas, the single most burdensome license is for fire alarm installer. If you want to be a fire alarm installer in Arkansas, you have to have 5 years of experience. You have to pay almost $1,500 in fees, and you actually have to pass four examinations to work as a fire alarm installer.
Gosh, unbelievable. That is unbelievable to me. But hang on, at the same time, though, it's like I can see with the way, people use emotional arguments. I mean, because I can just see the arguments against, if we were saying we want to, that's the most burdensome according to your study, we want to make that easier. The other side, the emotional argument is, well, we're talking about a fire alarm here, and we're talking about a house fire. We're talking about potential loss of life. I mean, so how do we balance that? Because, I mean, in my opinion, I wouldn't have a problem getting rid of it. Don't misunderstand me. Or severely lowering these requirements. 5 years, that sounds ridiculous. But you know what I'm saying? We are in an ideological battle, it seems. And the other side points to these, emotional arguments in some cases about potential fires and potential loss of life. So, they're going to say it's about the public safety. So talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So the word you used is correct, balance. How do we find that balance? So when the industries go and ask for a license, they will, as you said, typically say, we need to protect public health and safety, and therefore we need a license in order to achieve that. We hold open the possibility that there are occupations that would benefit from some form of government regulation, whether that's a license or some other forms of regulation that we can talk about. We hold open the possibility that that could be true. But before we do that, before legislatures create these licenses, there ought to be empirical, demonstrable evidence of a significant threat to public health and safety such that regulation is necessary. And if such evidence is put forward, then the appropriate level of regulation ought to be created. For too long, Paul, we've lived in this binary world where we've thought of occupational regulation as just basically no licensing and full licensing. But in fact, there's a menu of options in between that will include voluntary forms of regulation, like voluntary certification, for instance, or voluntary bonding and insurance. And then there are less onerous forms of government intervention, like registration systems, mandatory bonding and insurance, inspection systems, certification, private cause of action. So there are ways that the government can be part of that process, but not have to impose a full occupational license or to have the severe requirements that, for instance, fire alarm installer has in order to achieve the desirable outcome.
Yeah, and then you get, and I agree with what you said there.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hello, hello, hello. Hour number 2. My name is Paul. Thanks for being with us. The intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine here. We want you to be a part of it. One of the ways you can do that, call, text 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. I want to say hello to Stephen. Stephen writes, texts in from Sebastian County. All the way over, let's see, of course, I'm over here in the far east part of the state. Sebastian County's all the way over there in the western part of the state. Stephen, I'm hoping that you're listening, well, however you listen. You can listen online, but I'm assuming you're listening on KFPW out of Fort Smith, 1230 AM, 96.7 FM, the Marshall. We're really happy and glad to be on that station. Stephen writes in, Paul, I'm Stephen in Sebastian County. I'm a libertarian who loves your show. I'm sending you a very funny clip on corporate welfare from Reason.com. Reason.com makes some fantastic stuff. He goes on, it only takes a couple of minutes to watch and definitely worth it. Asa should probably watch it as well. Well, Stephen, I'm certainly going to take a look at this. I haven't had time because I got this text while I was on the program. I'm certainly going to take a look at this, and I appreciate you texting in and to give me, some feedback and to teach me something, because I have never seen this particular video. We've got another text message, no name on this one, that Bob Baloney sounds like you, so I don't trust you anymore. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't work for ASA News, the Parrot, okay? I don't work for that. I don't work for that news organization. You can trust me. I'm sorry if I sound a little bit like somebody else. This is another one. JD from Yell County. We were talking about hunting briefly last hour. JD from Yell County writes, Paul, did you hear about the girl last week in Missouri that shot what she thought was a deer, turned out to be an elk? Never knew elk were in Missouri. I did not know about that. Hang on a second. Joe, can you Google that? Can you Google girl shoots elk in Missouri, please? I just like to see it. I don't even know. I mean, I didn't hear anything about that. There was, I remember, I've seen reports. You know, they do it. Don't they have elk over in western Arkansas or a small population or something? And you can get tags. It's very hard to get tags. I don't know that for a fact. It seems like somebody told me that. But then I also heard a story that somebody found an elk, and nobody would believe them, just wandering around down in South Arkansas somewhere, you know, that had just, for some reason, had just done something weird and was like, you know, I'm going to make it in a different climate. But anyway, is it true? Do you see the story? What's the date on it? What do we have here? Okay, yeah, story yesterday. Yeah, I bet this appears to be it. Was this USA Today? USA Today picked this up? Yep. Wow. At Springfield. That's cool. Hey, show it up on the screen here and zoom in so I can read it. I don't have it. I'll have to use this other screen here. Get rid of the large McDonald's Egg McMuffin ad. Okay. Springfield, Missouri, wildlife officials have not decided whether any citations or warnings will be issued after a 14-year-old mistakenly shot a protected elk. Boy, that thing is huge. Abby Wilson, 14, shot the elk on Saturday in Boone County, thinking it was a large white-tailed buck. Her father, Donald White, immediately called the Conservation Department upon realizing his daughter's mistake. Quote, there is no elk season in Missouri, so free-ranging elk are protected, according to Tom Strother, an MDC Protection Regional Supervisor. It's a wildlife code violation to shoot a free-ranging elk, as there are no provisions that outline a hunting season like there is for white-tailed deer. As of Tuesday, conservation officials had not finished their investigation into the unusual case or decided whether warnings will be issued. Abby's story went viral Monday when hundreds of people posting comments about her mistaking an elk for a white-tailed deer. White said he was upset by some of the comments, that he felt amounted to bullying his young daughter over her mistake. Well, of course, you're going to have some of these people who, you know, would have rather, like, chained themselves to the elk to prevent its shooting or death. So that's ridiculous. Now that she was being bullied over a mistake like this.
I'm crying out loud, she's 14 years old.
I mean, good
Give
grief.
her a break.
It's ridiculous.
Come on, people.
What is wrong with this? Anyway. White said he later spoke with conservation officials in hopes that they would let his daughter keep the antlers, cape, and meat, which he said would be shared with his family. Let me tell you this. This whole thing, like this whole little controversy, oh, you can't kill free-ranging elk. But, you know, basically what they're saying is the state of Missouri is saying you can't kill free-ranging elk because we haven't regulated yet. It hasn't been regulated yet. We don't actually have a season. It hasn't been regulated, and so it's protected. And protected by that, we mean that this creature created by God, put here on this earth, belongs to the government, belongs to a collective government before it belongs to an individual man, in this case, woman. Anyway. Interesting story. JD from Yell County. Thanks, man. You sent us on a rabbit trail at the top of the show. I didn't plan on doing that, but that's fascinating to me that happened.
I kept reading on. This girl's one heck of a shot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it says, I'd make sure everyone around my family would have some of that, talking about the meat. And said
if they let him keep it.
Yeah. Who was nearby but not with Abby when she killed the bull elk with a single shot from her .243 caliber rifle.
Wow.
One shot. That's all it took.
Well, you know, if you hit him right.
One shot, one kill.
Anyway, well, good for her. Either way, she's I guess with the social media these days, she's, you know, learning that you got to have thick skin if you do anything. If you breathe, you know, you got. All right. So, next up, let's follow up on this story we talked about on Monday, because it's really, the more I've thought about it, it's just really upset me. So, this headline here is about the state entering into a no-bid awarding a contract to a private company without bidding it out. And the reason we find out, this is a great piece by Michael Wickline And, I started thinking to myself, this is honest, think about this for a second. This is a very comprehensive article. Joe, can you throw the article up here? Oh, yeah, you've already got it up. I'm sorry. Oh, that's funny. I didn't think you had it up because it starts with 14, and we were just talking about the girl who killed the elk, and she was 14, so my apologies. 14 state representatives and a House staff member attended an Indiana-based company's educational conference. Okay, that's how it starts. It starts with just saying, hey, look, these legislators went to an educational conference, and the state taxpayer paid for it, but it was a conference put on by this particular corporation that is, involved in the educational industrial complex, all right? And come to find out, they go to one in Atlanta, they go to one in Phoenix, and then this particular, organization, which is called, let's see here, hang on one second. It's Tree, right? It's, Solution Tree, okay? So this educational organization, company, Solution Tree, has this concept about group learning, right? And they essentially write whatever they're calling it, they write it into a bill that becomes law. Okay, according to the company's website, Solution Tree has helped educators in kindergarten through 12th grade in schools across the world raise student achievement, right? So Michael Wickline here really dives into this. He starts with the legislator travel, he leads into who Solution Tree is, and then he exposes that apparently the reason they get this no-bid contract is because they write their own little specialized buzzword and phrase into a law, and because no other education company or education service provider uses that exact phrase, the state can say, well, they're the only one that offers what the law requires. Well, it's because they lobbied you to put in and to torture the language in such a way that they're the only ones that are going to be fit to get the contract. I mean, it's a big story. It's a big story. And something tells me that Michael Wickline was told about this. Something tells me that Michael Wickline, it's just a very comprehensive story. Somebody had to say, Mike, you got to look into this. This is ridiculous. You've got to look into this. This is some really under the table, just not good for the people. This is corruption. I mean, I said it on Monday. That's what this is. This is corruption. It's a very detailed story, and it's corruption. And that doesn't mean that every legislator that has, that participated in going to this educational conference or not, doesn't mean that they're corrupt. I'm saying the fact, I believe that, the fact that they wrote into the bill what the private company wanted so that they could get the contract, it doesn't look good. Doesn't look good at all. I mean, you have a state senator who said that she can't really tell what they bring to the table. She talked about interviewing them in a hearing. Solution Tree made a presentation to the Legislative Educational Caucus, and Senator Democrat Linda Chesterfield had this to say: I still haven't gotten an answer that tells me how they're different. We have had team learning for a long time. So this little buzzword that they put together about collaboration or whatever is essentially just group learning. That's all it really is group learning. But yet they wrote that specific phrase into the bill, and bada bing, bada boom, they get a no-bid contract. Representative Charlotte Douglas, a Republican from Alma, is quoted as saying that the law was, quote, manipulated to make sure we gave it to a certain company. And this all has to do with State Representative Bruce Cozart on the Education Committee, who was the sponsor of this bill that is now Act 427, and it was drafted with the aim of requiring the Department of Education to hire Solution Tree, meaning we're going to write a bill to hire a specific company. Of course, in order to pass this, it quotes that Representative Deanne Vaught told committee members in their recent meeting, I'm tired of Arkansas thanking God for Mississippi. I think it's time we raise our education in Arkansas. I believe this is one way we can do this. They love to do that. They love to use that line. I'm tired of thinking. It's like do my idea. Don't allow any extra scrutiny. But because I say I'm looking out for Arkansas, and I'm just so sick and tired of us having to be right there next to Mississippi in national rankings, and thank God that we're beating Mississippi. I'm sick of it, and people are like, yeah, okay, we'll do whatever you want to do without analyzing the data, interpreting the results, or anything like that. It's just that it's frustrating to me. Solution Tree provides professional development through the professional learning communities at work. Professional learning communities at work. Think about this. All right, on the no-bid contract, Senator Alan Clark, a Republican from Garland County, friend of the program, he's on the Senate Education Committee. The Senate side, though. He said in an interview last week that he didn't realize until the recent meeting of the legislature's education committees that the Department of Education contracted with Solution Tree without first seeking bids. So you have some legislators here who are in the dark, and a lot of people are furious about this. Some lawmakers, they read this story and they couldn't believe it. Again, somebody had to tip Michael Wickline off, said, hey, you got to look into this. This is ridiculous. He said he wants department officials to provide, Alan Clark, wants department officials to provide a more thorough explanation about the decision. Since we had a push to avoid sole source contracts, I would like to hear that answer. According to state records, Michael Wickline goes on, Education Commissioner Johnny Key and Ackerman signed an agreement on May 10th for Solution Tree to provide consulting services to the department for $2,500 to support the planning and implementation of the pilot program for professional learning communities. Okay? This phrase, professional learning communities, is written into the bill. And so they say, well, they're the only ones that can provide professional learning communities, so we gave them a no-bid contract. Even though you have a state senator saying, hang on, wait a second. This is the same thing as group work or whatever. We've had that for years. This whole thing is ridiculous. This whole thing is an example of legal corruption, honest graft, whatever you want to call it, or dishonest graft. Or no, I guess honest graft. Yeah, actually it is honest graft. So my apologies there.
Because they see their opportunities and they took them.
I seen my opportunities and I took them. That's right. That is from a book called Republic No More, and it's by Jay Cost.
And the person that said that quote was George Washington Plunkett.
That's right. A Big Government and the Rise of the American Political Corruption, or American Political Corruption. Anyway, yeah, check that book out, George Washington Plunkett. That's where we get the idea of honest graft. It's basically just doing something that's unethical, but because you're using the government to do it, right? Here's an example: corporate welfare, kind of full circle to what our friend from Sebastian County was saying. Folks, if you were a private corporation and you were to take money from an existing Arkansas small business to help yourself out, that would be stealing. But Asa Hutchinson and the government get involved, and they will take money in the form of taxes from Arkansas small businesses and then give it to private corporations, hoping that they'll move here or hoping that they'll create jobs and be sustainable. And then they'll rob the skilled workforce of the existing Arkansas business because now they can pay a higher wage. You know what I'm saying? That is honest graft. Yeah. Say that. What were you saying?
We see you, Chairman Chu.
We see. We're looking at you.
Right at you, buddy.
Isn't
it good to have legislatures over here now, buddy?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Well, there's
be an American citizen.
Apparently, according to Mike Preston, they're citizens. Yeah. It was a big deal. It was a nice deal.
Got a nice manila envelope.
I don't know if like the immigration department was in on that deal that Asa made with China. But
when they made the agreement, they each of the Chinese representatives got a manila envelope with the seal of the Holy Governor on it. And inside was a full package of Social Security card, driver's license, all the works, passports, everything.
Everything you need. Everything you need to contact those senators and state reps if you need something done. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment.
iTex is your first choice for cost-effective IT services. Protecting your business means protecting your data. Are you tired of unpredictable and expensive spikes in IT spending? Using iTex will prevent downtime and loss of employee productivity and do it all with an affordable, predictable budget. iTex is the premier managed service provider for small and medium businesses. They help their clients put IT to work to earn your business more money, and you should contact them today for a free consultation. 870-336-9778. That's 870-336-9778 or itexusa.com. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas. Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, walking you through this real quick. I know we got another break to go to, but listen to this, okay? According to state records, Education Commissioner Johnny Key signed an agreement on May 10th for Solution Tree to provide consulting services to the department for $2,500, okay? This happened, okay, before the state gave them a $4 million no-bid contract with the company. It's unbelievable. Now, Johnny Key, who's a former Republican state senator from Mountain Home, said in an email to the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, again, this is Michael Wickline writing this, that professional learning communities weren't a new topic, which is kind of, I'm in agreement. I mean, that's what I've been saying. He recalled legislative committees hearing a staff presentation on the topic all the way back in 2012. Members of the Arkansas legislature investigated a variety of strategies and determined that professional learning communities at work process most effectively meets the needs of schools in Arkansas. Key wrote in a letter dated May 12 to the state's procurement director, Ed Armstrong, in which Johnny Key made a pitch for awarding a sole source contract to Solution Tree. Quote, Solution Tree is the only vendor that can deliver the PLC, Professional Learning Communities, at work process. The resources are copyrighted and the intellectual property of Solution Tree. The validity of the program would be compromised and consistent evaluation impossible if another concurrent vendor was implementing a separate program. Now, why this happened? Why do they give them a no-bid contract? Because this buzzword, professional learning communities at work. There's professional learning communities, but this is professional learning communities at work, written into the legislation.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
What about the licensing rules that can be proved, that are already in existence, that are proven have nothing to do with the public safety, but it's only about the fence, around the industry, paying, greasing somebody's palms, paying homage, paying tribute, I mean, here in Arkansas a couple of years ago, we did get one regulation. I wish we'd put all of the burdensome regulations that are not about the public safety into one bill, but it was like pulling teeth to get just one out of the cosmetology board allowing somebody to braid hair. That's all they did. They braided hair. Cosmetology was saying you need 1,500 hours, and the schools in her area didn't even offer hair braiding as training. She's been braiding hair for her whole life. I mean, I've got the testimony, and it was like pulling teeth. It barely passed, but thank goodness, if you want to braid hair, that's all you want to do. You don't have to have a license to do that. Some of these are clear cut, have nothing to do with the public safety. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, that's one of the reforms that we talk about in our report. We have a whole section on the different types of reform that could be instituted in the states, and this is one of them, where there is just simply no clear relationship between the licensing requirements and protection of public health and safety. In such cases, our recommendation is those licenses can be eliminated entirely. There may be other licenses where some demonstrable evidence exists that there is some threat to public health and safety. There is some sort of need for intervention. If so, then match up the appropriate type of regulation, like I was talking about before, to address that certain type of need.
Yeah.
So the reforms that we recommend will range anywhere from reducing the burdens of certain licenses to eliminating licenses altogether.
Yeah. I kind of feel like, and this just, dawned on me. I mean, I've thought about this before, but this really is all about risk. And I think there's some people that want to, lessen the potential risk to consumers. But I feel like there's some that want to try to eliminate it. And I don't think that's possible. And I think if you approach it from a concept of government saying we're trying to make sure, when people are out there, voluntary cooperations in an economy, in service, that nothing bad ever happens to them. If you approach it from that mentality, you're not going to have very much freedom to work.
Oh, but Paul, keep in mind that a license doesn't eliminate that. Bernie Madoff was licensed.
Oh, God.
There was a funeral director in Georgia that was pitching dead bodies behind his establishment out in the woods. I don't know if you remember that story several years ago.
Wow.
He was licensed. Public school teachers that have sex with their students, they're licensed. Licensing doesn't stop that type of behavior. And I would suggest that there are other means beyond just licensing where we can convey even greater amounts of useful information than ever before, and that is with consumer review websites like Yelp, for instance, or Angie's List, or Home Advisor, or Google Reviews, or any number of these websites out there. I can dial them up, and on my phone, I can get more information about service providers than any licensing scheme can ever provide.
That is a great point. That's a fantastic point. And I think that's where we're going to leave it. Dr. Dick Carpenter, you are the Director of Strategic Research for the Institute for Justice. I so appreciate you being on the program. And again, I just want to encourage everybody who's in the Conway area, if you're listening to this, just know on November
Need to get something off your chest? Then call or text Paul now, 870-275-9799.
All right, welcome back. 870-275-9799. Oh, man. 870-275-9799. Okay, coming up on Monday. All right. Yeah, we definitely are. Yeah. But, sorry, I was answering a question. Coming up on Monday at 5 o'clock, we're going to be talking with State Representative Andy Davis, who's going to be on the program. And the reason we're going to be talking to him is because I saw a piece by Dave Perozek over at the Northwest Arkansas online, okay? And this has to do with a new law that he was pushing, or that, he successfully pushed through, State Representative Andy Davis. Finance lessons, now a graduation requirement, or will be, by the year 2021 in the state of Arkansas, okay? Arkansas students starting with the class of 2021 won't be able to graduate from high school without some understanding of financial planning, taxes, and how to make a household budget. Now, that's just basic run-of-the-mill stuff, right? You would think. But yeah, it does need to be learned. It needs to be learned. And, I mean, it really says, okay, I mean, I think this is productive. I really do. I think it has the potential to be productive, and I wanted to talk about that. So, my question here is, okay, when we talk about financial planning, taxes, and how to make a household budget, are we just what do we mean about taxes? Are we just saying, hey, taxes are a thing. This gets taken out of your check if you have an employer. You have to take checks. You have to take taxes out if you're not employed or you work for yourself. You're going to be responsible for paying your taxes and filing and everything like that. I mean, if that's what it is, can you imagine the benefits of so many people? The story for so many liberals or progressives is, I was a liberal in college, which I was actually a liberal in college. I was a liberal in college, but once I got out into the real world and I saw how much money was going from my hard work to the government, I started. It's not necessarily that you even say, oh, I got greedy and now I'm a conservative. That's what the left will want you to believe. No, what it means is you just ask the simple question. It's a very simple question, and that question is this: where does that money go to? That's all that you have. And so, you may be a liberal, and a lot of people just may be socially liberal in college, but then you start to work your specialty or whatever, your skills that you learned in college or you've developed, and then you see how much money is going to the government, and you just start asking the question, well, where is it going? And that puts you on a path of, yeah, maybe you continue and you still think this is great, the government's great, and I'm still as liberal as I was, or you start to wonder about the efficiencies of these programs. It's going to help the poor. Okay, does the program really help the poor? Does it really end poverty? Is ending the poverty even the goal anymore? What are the incentive structures? Are we incentivizing people? Are we putting people on a path to generational poverty or generational dependency? I think if you were to have those conversations, or maybe start down those roads in high school, when you're taking a class on a household budget and taxes, I think it could actually really serve to educate people. Not force people into one ideological perspective or another, but actually educate them, because a lot of people have no idea about taxes when you're in high school. I don't think I had any clue about taxes in high school.
I wish we'd had something like this when I was in high school. Like, I had no clue. I don't think it would have changed my political beliefs whatsoever at the time. But if I would have learned these skills in high school, oh man, I would actually probably have a savings account right now that's probably got a lot of money in it just for backups, but that doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
Because Joe doesn't spend well. He likes to use his money. Mostly on food, though. Mostly on food.
Well,
and rent and bills.
You do have to eat.
Yeah.
So, but there are very cheap ways to eat.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Those don't usually come to mind whenever I'm hungry. When you're hungry, you're hungry. You can't do anything about it.
Expensive tastes.
Exquisite tastes is how I like to phrase that.
I just think, anyway, we're going to be interviewing Andy Davis on this topic. He was the sponsor of this legislation, and it was House Bill 1442. The legislature this year passed 1442, which became known as the Personal Finance and Job Readiness Act. It mandates students receive instruction on a range of standards related to financial literacy. They must get that instruction in grades 10 through 12, okay? All high school students are required to take economics. Some of what's taught in today's economic courses is related to personal finance, but the law presents additional topics that must be taught, according to Marcia Masters, the Associate Director of Economics Arkansas. The law doesn't require schools to offer a personal finance course. It directs the Arkansas Department of Education in consultation with the Department of Career Education to develop personal and family finance standards, which may be inserted into existing courses. Now, let's stop for a second. Like I said, this is an opportunity for something, an opportunity for something that I think could be positive. But that being said, let's kind of acknowledge right now that these organizations that I just mentioned, Arkansas Department of Education, Department of Career Education, their track record's really not that great right now. I mean, if you go talk to business owners, their track record's not great. I said the other day, you look at what we were doing in the 60s. Did we have better results in educating, reading, writing, arithmetic, getting people into jobs and employment in the 60s, or do we have better results now? Maybe we should go back and do things the way we used to do, right? I'm not saying this is, I think, a positive step for a lot of reasons. But let's admit, let's start talking about these new ideas, okay, which actually you can make an argument that this particular idea by Representative Davis is stuff people used to know, right? A budget, savings, taxes. Kids in high school used to know this stuff. They don't really know it much anymore.
I guarantee if you hand a kid a checkbook right now with numbers already put in it and tell them to balance it, they will have no idea what the heck you're talking about.
Yeah, balance a checkbook. I mean, what's a checkbook at this point? You got debit cards. You don't have a way to keep up with it. Jerry Seinfeld had a famous joke that it's always embarrassing to pay with a check because it's like a note from your mom. I don't have any money, but if you call these people. Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah, that's his joke. He's great. I mean, still to this day, hilarious. It is like a note for your mom. I don't really have any money, but if you call these people, they'll give you my money for you. Sorry. You ever see what was it? I'm trying to figure out. Notes from your mom were like a golden ticket. At least, well, notes from my mom. And you'd have to know my mom. But a note from my mom to an adult seemed to be effective. To the teacher. This anyway. Go ahead.
So notes from my mom to a teacher usually involved if he acts up, you can spank him.
Oh, really? Well, yeah. That was par for the course too for me. But so people used to already. So in many ways, you could say this might be kind of regressive. In terms of we need to go back and kids need to know stuff that they've always known. And they don't know it anymore.
Very few times will ever say this is a good regression.
Why do you need
this is helpful to people.
Right. How are you going to learn this basic stuff if in the world of calculators on your cell phone and text messaging and Facebook and all this other stuff and all those distractions
online banking.
Yeah. But you still need these skills because they're going to make you aware of how not to end up in poverty.
Yeah, these are excellent skills that, again, I wish I had when I started college.
Yeah, but it's something that it's something that we've definitely lost. But and so in the context of this, okay, if you talk to business owners and you think about education and the education departments, they are not doing a very good job of they have our kids. Unless you go to private school, the government has your children. For 13 years now. For 13 years, they're responsible for educating them. Now, without getting into maybe the causes of the negative results, and, if we wanted to, we could talk about how it's no longer about educating kids and teaching them basic life skills. It's about raising them, because we have so many behavioral problems. We have kids that don't respect authority. That comes from a negative home life, okay? We also have guidance counselors who, in my opinion, because of the state and the training, they buy into a phony philosophy that you're only going to be successful, and our only metric of success as guidance counselors is how many people in our senior class got accepted and are going to college next year. Okay, we've done our job. That's not necessarily the case, because college, I think, more and more is becoming something that's not for everybody. I mean, it's never been for everybody, but now everybody's told in order to be a success, you have to go to college. That is not true, especially if you look at the government-financed loans, the government-guaranteed loans, the incentive structure that's perverse with the colleges and universities, how they don't really have customers that they have to provide for because they have a guaranteed customer base because the government is guaranteeing the loans. And then you graduate with all of this debt. There's no cost controls that the universities really have. It's becoming a perverse system. Now, at the same time, college is useful. You need college for certain things as well. But we have to admit, with all that being said, okay, and you can go down each one of those rabbit trails: bad home lives, bad education results, failed philosophies. We need skills. We don't need degrees in underwater basket weaving. We have to admit that these state government organizations are controlling what our kids are learning for 13 years, and our results are getting worse and worse and worse. Now keep in mind, they used to control your kids for 12 years. And I say the word control in, you could take it as seriously as you want it, but I'm kind of meaning it more loosely here. They're responsible for educating your kids, in some capacity. It used to be 12 years. Now it's 13 years. Okay? It can be even longer than that. And do we have more people that can show up to work on time and pass a drug test, or less people that can show up to work and pass a drug test? Right? These are tough realities we've got to accept. And if you're going to try to fix the education problem in Arkansas, you're going to have to admit that what we're doing now is not working, and so more of the same is not the answer. And this kind of goes back to solution tree. Giving them a no-bid contract because you write them into the law because you've got some new buzzword called professional learning communities at work. When everybody knows, I've heard the buzzword professional learning communities for a long time, but they said, well, no, this is professional learning communities at work, meaning ours works, the others don't. Write our phrase into the law, give us the no bid contract for $4 million. I don't know. Look, this is not good. We are witnessing the birth of the educational industrial complex because most people think that it's a money problem and that if you throw enough money at it, education will get better. That is clearly not true. That is not true. We have to dismiss that concept. More money does not directly correlate to a better educational outcome, period. It just simply doesn't. And we have enough data on that really means we should be reforming and rethinking the entire process. But we don't. Do you know why? Case in point, Republicans caved on school choice down at the Marble Palace. You know why? Because superintendents lied about what the bill did, and they lied to their teachers about what their bill did, and they started a statewide frenzy, and these legislators got scared, and they bailed on it. That and the governor didn't support it officially until the last minute, if you can even believe that. So, why did that happen? Because of change. You could even probably get some people to admit, yeah, our education system isn't working. We're not getting better results. We're getting worse results. But if you start talking about change, what are you talking about? Moving money around. You're talking about, at some point, you're going to have to wrestle control away from the people who are currently in control. And that means change. And that means that's going to make people uncomfortable. That means people may get moved around. That means you may not have these ridiculous salaries for some of these superintendents, and some of them do great work. And my point is, if we're gonna try this, we have to realize more money doesn't mean better results, and you're gonna actually have to upset. I think it's inevitable. There's no way you're going to be able to do the reforms that are needed without completely upsetting everybody at the local level or people who are going to misrepresent the bill and start a frenzy. It's going to require strong conservatives who are articulate and are able to combat the lies about what they're going to say your educational reforms will do. And we have to go back to educating towards skills. We have to go back towards educating. Just because you don't go to college, that may be great. You know what? If you don't go to college, there's potentially a $50,000 a year welding job out there for you at 18 years old, right? When you're by yourself. You know what I'm saying? We've got to get back to that idea. And that doesn't mean everybody's a welder. Of course not. No. But things... and again, back to this Andy Davis piece. I think it's something as simple as teaching financial planning and taxes and a household budget is a good thing. There's a lot of people that have no idea what that is. They have no idea what taxes are. They have no idea what debt is. And that's why you have so many. You know what? If anything, teaching financial planning and taxes and a household budget, it could also make children rethink whether or not they want to go to college because everybody says they need to and take on all this debt that they don't have a perception of what they're actually doing. They don't have a perception of how they're leveraging themselves away, how much a risk that they are taking by going to college, having a great time for 4 years. Yeah, I'm going to get a degree, but you know what? You're going to get a job that maybe pays a little bit more than you would if you'd have just gone and gotten a job when you were 18 years old. And you missed all that work experience over those 4 years where you could have made connections, made relationships, gotten, it's just, we got a lot of work to do. That's all I'm trying to say. What do you guys think? Tell me what you think about the state of our education system. There's so many different ways to look at it. You've got the no-bid contract that went out. We now have the news, Solution Tree, $4 million. So there's the educational industrial complex part of it. Right? Then that filters down to the lower levels. And we're not getting better results education-wise. We're getting worse results. It used to be as simple as teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic, and now they've made it all complicated. Way more complicated than it is. Professional learning groups at work, or professional learning communities at work. And then they write that into the law just so they can give a no-bid contract to a private company? The number, if you want to call or text, is 870-275-9799. We appreciate everybody out there listening, and we'll be back in just a moment.
This is for all you big government establishment Republicans out there. Hope you're listening. I keep a close watch on these votes of mine. I keep my finger in the wind all the time. I vote big government, and you will pay with your dime. 'Cause every time I toe the line. There's always an excuse not to shrink government. It's much easier just to toe that line. I find it very easy to be rhino blue. I find I'm not alone when failing to come through. Yes, big government, I'm a fool for you. 'Cause every time I toe that line. Legislative sleight of hand would be an accurate description. Or you could just say, they can't quit towing that party line. As sure as night is dark and day is light, I'll vote big government both day and night. And act like I'm shocked when it all comes to light. 'Cause every time I toe the line. The phrase toe the line is the equivalent of toe the mark, both of which mean to conform to a rule or standard. You could also call it the status quo.
Tax and spend, I'm always on your side. I love writing government checks that I cannot hide. Buying people's votes always turns the tide, 'cause every time I toe the line. The Oxford Dictionary word histories. The idiom toe the line, from an athletics analogy, originated in the early 19th century. I hope you don't watch these votes of mine. Hope you don't see through the lies and slime. 'Cause I plan on spending with your dime. 'Cause every time I toe the line. You know, toeing the line is what the folks down in Little Rock call progress.
PHP Parody. Paul Harrell, your voice for limited government and small business in Arkansas.
Welcome back. Hey, real quick, when you hear the government talk about workforce training, okay, workforce training is something that happens after high school, okay? We need workforce training, or we need work requirements for Arkansas Works. When they say that, many of these politicians, in my opinion, are using buzzwords, and they don't want you to understand the same system of government that is getting worse results in our education system for the last 13 years. They have your child for 13 years, and they can't, in many cases, teach them how to work. Okay, if you talk to business owners, show up to work on time, pass a drug test, you know, are you willing to learn? That's what they want. In many cases, they don't want the government to teach them anything because the government's going to. How can the government actually, by the way, how does the government have the power to change your motivations and ambitions? That's a whole nother question. Okay, that's a whole nother question. But let's think about it this way. How is the same government system all of a sudden going to be successful in work training? Not that they can't be successful, just like we do have success stories in our education system today. But by and large, we need workforce training. We need workforce training. Okay, these are the same people that have had your children for 13 years and didn't produce an 18-year-old child. No, now you need workforce training. Well, good grief. I mean, come on, our grandparents were flying fighter jets at 17, 18 years old in World War II, okay? You're capable of a ton of stuff. We've got, if you want to know the number one thing I think we could do to make our education system better, it's more responsibility, not less, on the kids, okay? And I say that as somebody who hated school, okay? I couldn't stand school. But you have to get rid of the concept of extended adolescence. That's the number one thing. Extended adolescence. This idea that you're not really an adult in America until you're 25, 26 years old. After you get out of college, now you're an adult. No. We need to instill a much greater responsibility on our young people the way we used to. And that's a big problem.
Very few times will I ever give Europe credit for having a better system than America does, because by most accounts, America's better than any.
Well, you know, Europe's socialist, so you tread carefully with your next statement.
Their education system is actually pretty decent. When they produce workers and stuff, when they get to a certain age, they can either drop out of school because they're not going to go to a higher form of education. They're not going to go to college, and they can begin basically.
I didn't know that.
Basically, workforce training, essentially, where they can, if they want to be
hey, I've decided I want to be a tradesman in this.
Exactly, and they go do that.
Yeah.
The only thing in Europe you really need a college degree for is if you're going into a field that will require it, medical, business, things that really require you to do extra studying.
Right.
But for the most part, anything outside of that, like if you're going to be an artist, you don't go to school to be an artist. You go study under an artist for a long time, and you study how to become an artist.
Yeah,
person.
More of an apprenticeship thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
that's something that's my fault.
It's because you were talking. Go ahead.
That's
Finish your
something
thought.
I applaud Europe for, is that they're giving their youth the freedom to become whatever they want it to be. And unfortunately, we don't have that here.
Yeah.
We're pinholding people.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. I'm going to look into that. That's very interesting. Thank you for participating in the discussion, everybody out there. We appreciate it. Thank you. This program, you can go back and get it on demand at paulharrell.com. Just click on Video Archives or Podcast. That's Paul, HARRELL.com. Folks, tomorrow is Johnny Cash Friday. Text me your requests, 870-275-9799, Arkansas. We'll see you tomorrow. Be safe.